How you doing, ma'am?
Who is this, please?
I said, how you doing, ma'am?
Okay, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm shot, I think, maybe in 2 places.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Richard Poplawski. I'm in my residence at 1016 Fairfield Street.
1016 Fairfield. Okay, hold on a minute, honey, okay? Yeah. Okay, and what do you want to come out? Want to give yourself up or what?
I can't give myself up because I'm laying in a pool of blood and I can't really move, but I'm done taking innocent police officers' lives.
Welcome back, folks. Today, we dive deep into a case that starts with a seemingly minor domestic argument and ends with a tragic shootout. It's the story of Richard Poplawski and the 2009 Pittsburgh police shootings, a tale that's as shocking as it is heartbreaking. Richard Andrew Poplawski, born on September 12, 1986, grew up in the Stanton Heights neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He lived with his mother, Margaret Poplawski, and his grandmother. Richard's life was a mix of turbulence and anger, marked by failed relationships and a failed military career. Richard's life reads like a manual on how not to win friends and influence people. Kicked out of the Marine Corps for throwing a food tray at a drill instructor? That's a special kind of talent. After being discharged from the Marines, Richard struggled with job stability, working short stints at various places, including a glass factory from which he was eventually let go. This job loss hit him hard, adding to his already volatile temperament. His personal life was equally chaotic. He had a brief, tumultuous marriage to a young woman he met while in juvenile detention. That ended in divorce, leaving him emotionally scarred. He later dated another woman, and that relationship also ended disastrously with allegations of assault and violation of a protection order. Neighbors reported that Richard was often involved in arguments, including a couple of fistfights and an incident where he used a racial slur against a black resident. He moved to Florida in 2006 but was evicted by his landlord after her German shepherd disappeared under his care. He eventually moved back in with his mother and grandmother in Pittsburgh. The morning of April 4th, 2009 began like any other, but quickly spiraled into a nightmare. Richard and his mother were arguing over a dog urinating in the house. In frustration, Margaret called 911 to have her son removed from the home. At approximately 7:03 a.m., Pittsburgh police officers Paul Sciullo and Stephen Mayhle arrived at the Poplawaski residence in response to the call. Margaret met them at the door, trying to explain the situation. Little did the officers know they were walking into a deadly trap. Richard, armed with an AK-47, a shotgun, and several handguns, lay in wait, wearing a bulletproof vest. Pro tip: if you're greeting cops at the door, a warm smile usually works better than, say, an assault rifle and tactical gear. As Officers Sciullo and Mayhle entered the home, Richard opened fire. Officer Sciullo was shot in the head and killed instantly. Officer Mayhle, too, was shot in the head as he tried to react. The shots were so sudden and lethal that they had no chance to defend themselves. Officer Eric Kelly, who had just finished his overnight shift and was heading home, heard the emergency call and rushed to the scene. As he arrived, he saw the bodies of his fellow officers and tried to assist, only to be shot multiple times by Poplawski. Despite his injuries, Kelly managed to call for backup, a heroic act that would ultimately cost him his life. Officer Kelly's bravery is nothing short of heroic, running towards danger when most would run away. It's the kind of courage that movies are made of, but tragically, this was all too real. The situation quickly escalated into a 4-hour standoff with police. Richard fired more than 600 rounds from his arsenal, keeping law enforcement at bay. SWAT teams arrived, but the bodies of the fallen officers remained inaccessible due to the continuous barrage of gunfire. Imagine your quiet neighborhood turning into a war zone complete with SWAT teams and more bullets than an action movie. Not exactly what you'd expect on a Saturday morning. During the standoff, Richard called his friend, Edward Perkovich, and eerily declared, "Eddie, I'm going to die today. Tell your family I love them and I love you."
In the morning, or 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and said, "Eddie, I'm going to die today." I heard gunshots. He said, "Tell your mother and your family that I love them and I love you, and this is probably the end." And he hung up the phone, and I couldn't get a hold of him.
This chilling phone call was just one part of the bizarre and tragic events unfolding. After hours of intense gunfire and negotiation, Richard finally surrendered. He had been shot in the leg by police and, realizing his situation was hopeless, decided to give himself up.
How you doing, ma'am?
Who is this, please?
I said, how you doing, ma'am?
Okay, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm shot, I think, maybe in 2 places.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Richard Poplawski.
Okay, and where are you at?
I'm in my residence at 1016 Fairfield Street.
Okay, hold on a minute, honey, okay? Yeah. Okay, and what do you want to come out? Want to give yourself up or what?
I can't give myself up because I'm laying in a pool of blood and I can't really move, but I'm done taking innocent police officers' lives, so if they would come and get me, and that would be great.
Do you have any weapons on you?
I got plenty of weapons on me, but I'm not shooting any more cops because my weapons are either out of ammunition or they're disabled.
Okay, you're out of ammunition.
Almost, but I promise you that I'm not going to be shooting at any more fucking police officers. I just mean...
Hold on a minute. Okay, and you want to come out now? Are you hurt?
I'm in extreme pain, and I'm going to go to jail and fight for the rest of my life.
Extreme pain.
Shift commander.
Hello, sir?
Yeah, okay, good.
Are you guys outside?
Yes.
Okay, here's the deal. You're talking to Mr. Richard Poplawski.
He was transported to UPMC Presbyterian Hospital for treatment before being moved to Allegheny County Jail. And there we have it, folks. A man who started his day arguing about dog pee and ended it in a shootout with the police. Talk about escalating quickly. This tragic incident claimed the lives of 3 brave officers. Officer Paul J. Sciullo II, 37, a 2-year veteran of the force, survived by his parents, 2 sisters, and fiancé. Officer Stephen J. Mayhle, 29, also a 2-year veteran, survived by his wife, 2 daughters, parents, and 2 brothers. Officer Eric G. Kelly, 41, a 14-year veteran, survived by his wife, 3 daughters, mother, and sister. 2 other officers were seriously injured. Officer Timothy McManaway, 46, a 14-year veteran, shot in the hand. Officer Brian Jones, 37, a 3-year veteran, suffered a broken leg while climbing a fence. The aftermath of the shootings revealed several critical lapses in communication and response. Notably, the 911 operator had mistakenly entered "no weapons" into the system, despite Margaret Poplawaski informing them that her son owned guns. Talk about a critical typo. Imagine thinking you're walking into a heated argument and instead facing an armory. Definitely not in the job description. In the days following the tragedy, Pittsburgh and the nation mourned the loss of the officers. A final radio roll call was held, a somber tradition honoring the fallen. Flags were flown at half-staff, and a procession of thousands, including law enforcement from across the country, paid their respects. Richard Poplawski's trial began on June 20th, 2011. The evidence against him was overwhelming, from his internet postings espousing white supremacist views to his explicit confessions during the standoff. On June 28, 2011, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection for the murders of Officers Sciullo, Mayhle, and Kelly. Justice was swift but bittersweet.
There was a powerful emotional release in this moment. The surviving, grieving family members, the prosecutors, they got every single thing they asked for from the Richard Poplawski jury. Emotional moments long awaited for the mothers and families of those hailed as fallen heroes. Loved ones of fallen officers wept and hugged as jurors found Richard Poplawski guilty on all counts and of first-degree murder of Paul Sciullo, Steve Mayhle, and Eric Kelly. The prosecutor says it's a powerful moment for those families.
Really, they have not been able to grieve like normal homicide victim families have. I mean, their business has been the business of all the citizens of Allegheny County.
Deputy Police Chief Paul Donaldson says Pittsburgh police and the families are pleased and that the justice system works.
It's been 2 long years to get us just to this point, and we will never forget it. It was a traumatic experience for the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police.
That's the sound of applause from police officers and victims' families for prosecutor Mark Tranquilli as he left the courtroom victorious.
We're dealing with not just 3 families, we're really dealing with 4, and I think the 4th family is really the entire law enforcement community in Allegheny County.
The bond unites them as families left behind prepare to testify to the impact on them as victims.
We look forward to the penalty phase of the proceedings. We realize that it isn't over at this time.
For them, and obviously for the police officers that put their lives on the line that day to try and recover and save the fallen heroes, I think that it was a vindication for their bravery that day.
This jury gets Sunday off, then returns 9:30 Monday morning to take up the matter and hear arguments about whether Richard Poplawski should face life or death. You know, there was one person who stood up in that courtroom, literally, for Richard Poplawski this night. That was his mother. And Channel 4 Action News reporter Ashley Hardway has the story of what she's saying tonight.
Does anybody think for 1 minute that I wanted this for the community? That I wanted this for those officers, that I wanted this for their families, that I wanted this for me and my son?
Margaret Poplawaski, very emotional, very heated after learning a jury convicted her son of killing 3 Pittsburgh police officers.
Regardless of whatever he's done, I love him unconditionally. What am I going to say?
Judge Manning asked she be removed from the courtroom after the verdict as he was concerned she would have an outburst. She faced the reality even her son's attorney knew was likely inevitable.
I think to ask a jury to render a verdict on the death of 3 police officers and expect them to come up with anything other than a guilty verdict with this type of evidence would have been an unreasonable expectation on my part.
Margaret was inside her Fairfield Street home for the entire incident that Saturday morning. She never stopped her son or even tried. I asked her why.
I had to be there to understand it.
She blamed the incident on 911 dispatchers not informing police her son had weapons.
These officers, I don't feel, were heroes. What happened is it's not cowards versus heroes. It was failure of job performance, negligence.
She told me she had been a gunshot wound victim in that same home in the past, but didn't say who had shot her. I asked if she was afraid her own son would kill her. Were you afraid that he was going to hurt you if you said anything?
I don't know.
Now, we did speak to the Mayhle family afterward, and they say they are declining comment at this point, as is the Sciullo family. We were not able to speak with the Kelly family, but as you know, they did not come over and want to speak with the media at this point. We do hope to bring you their stories after the penalty phase.
While Poplawski now sits on death row, the families of the victims continue to live with the loss every day. It's a stark reminder of the dangers police officers face and the ultimate sacrifice they sometimes make. Poplawski's execution date was initially set for March 3rd, 2017, but has been stayed pending appeals, which could delay the execution for years. The appeals process is lengthy and complex, ensuring that all legal avenues are exhausted before carrying out the sentence. The 2009 Pittsburgh police shootings remain a stark and painful memory for the community. It's a story that underscores the unpredictable nature of domestic disputes and the potential for violence that can erupt from seemingly minor conflicts. So, as we wrap up this tragic tale, let's take a moment to remember the brave officers who lost their lives that day. Their courage and dedication to duty are a testament to the best of what humanity can offer, even in the face of unimaginable horror. This incident serves as a grim reminder of the dangers law enforcement officers face daily. It also highlights the importance of proper communication and preparedness in emergency responses to prevent such tragedies in the future.